guys, welcome into the first ever co-release of Radioactive Papercuts and the Marvel Stuff podcast. We're kicking off some Strange Week action, and unfortunately, some of the audio went a little crazy on this episode, but I still hope you enjoy. Keep getting pumped. This movie's going to be sweet. Love you guys. Listen in. Let us know what you think. Hey guys, welcome in to the first ever co-release of Radioactive Papercuts and Marvel Stuff podcast. I am your host, Josh Kennedy from Facebook, and my loyal co-host from Papercuts and occasional guest on Marvel Stuff. Please welcome Noah King Bates. How are you doing?
Oh, I cannot complain. How are you doing?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to get into this. We've been doing this over on Radioactive Papercuts. This is episode 2 of Comic Book Club. Every single month, we're going to be reading a graphic novel, giving our thoughts about it, getting giving everybody their props, the writer, the artist, all that good nonsense, and it's going to be sweet. This is day 2 of Strange Week. Hope you guys are excited to keep jumping in here. This is going to be the first ever video Spotify release for the Marvel Stuff. Unfortunately, Noah, you know what? Your cartoon is pretty sick looking, so honestly, it's a 50-50 on which one the audience would prefer.
I'm pretty sure I look like that. It's the exact same thing.
Yep. I've seen you many times, and that's just like exactly just a perfect representation. What we did today is we read Doctor Strange Surgeon Supreme Volume 1, and that Volume 1 was called it was Under the Knife. Yeah, Under the Knife. And this was a 6-issue series that came out in 2019. Most of the reason we did this is because it was the only one on the Hoopla app that we use to read our comic books. And that's really most of what I can say about this one. I'm going to read the description real quick just to kind of give us a little bit of a premise here, and then we'll get into it. Sound good, Noah?
Sounds great.
All right, so the official description of this volume was, "The impossible has happened. Stephen Strange's hands have been healed, restoring the surgical skills he lost long ago. But now Doctor Strange finds himself torn between his obligations as Sorcerer Supreme and a life-saving neurosurgeon. And when Strange is forced to choose which set of vows he must uphold, who will suffer for it? After all, magic always has a cost, and the threats are mounting, like the wrecker of reality. A patient's heavy metal tattoos come to life, and more. Plus, Dr. Druid returns, but has he truly renounced all magic as his claims, or is it something more sinister brewing in the halls of McCarthy Medical Institute? Join Stephen Strange, MD, for a new era of modern medicine, mystic arts, and horror." Did that sound accurate to you, Noah, to what we actually read?
Kind of.
Yeah, I think you and I are of the same opinion on this one. The first episode of Comic Book Club, we did Batman the Imposter. And I will say I very much preferred both the storyline and the artwork in that one. I think you're on the same page as me.
Yeah. So I do want to give a shout. I mean, even though we might not have enjoyed the writer, the storytellers were Mark Waid and Kev Walker. Colorist was Jaime Tarantaglia. Probably screwed that name up.
Yeah, with Antonio Fabella. Yep.
Yep. BC Corey Petit was the letterer, and Phil Noto did the cover for at least part 1.
Yep. And we appreciate those guys for trying their best.
Yeah, I really do.
This story, just to kick it off, this story had a lot of promise. I think in the first few pages of this graphic novel, one, I wasn't as attached to the artwork, but that's just a personal preference thing. The actual storyline seemed like something that could be really engaging. Did you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, especially because, I mean, even in the first picture, which is the guy sitting there, the one where the guy sitting in the chair and that demon tumor is above him. I was like, oh, we're gonna get that really cool mix between science and magic of tumors and problems with the body manifesting into magic. So I was like, yeah, I'm all for that. That sounds great, and that's not what we got at all.
Yeah, that was, I've got it pulled up on the screen right now. Not the first example, but another example. The idea that they had these cool looking demon monster things that were representative of disease within the hospital, I was like, this is going to be a visually entertaining aspect of the comic book. But unfortunately, we only got to see it a handful of times.
Yeah.
The duet, like, I like the idea of him getting his hands fixed and going back to being a neurosurgeon, and it really acknowledging that he's the best in the world at being a neurosurgeon. Like, that was pretty cool, and it was a good setup. And the fact that he is famous as Doctor Strange, that was pretty fun.
Yeah,
But
Kermit was very entertaining to me.
yeah, his assistant Kermit, yeah. We love that guy. He was great. He was a lot of one cape question a day. That was great. But overall, like, the story didn't go anywhere near what I really wanted it to do. At least that's how I felt about it. You could tell there was a little bit of friction from him getting between his work as the Doctor and his work as Doctor Strange. In the first little section, we're introduced to just this explosion in downtown New York, and where he goes to check it out, right? And he's met by Wrecker and no, the first one is just Wrecker, right?
Yeah, that's Wrecker is the first one, and then it's Wrecker and
Thunderbolt later. Yeah, but in the first one, essentially he meets this. He must be like an E or F list villain. I've never heard of this guy. Had you?
Were you
that was
one
one
the Wrecking Crew?
No, not once. Are they important somehow?
Okay, so they're not like super important, but they're on the level of like Shocker.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of Marvel comics, but I guess maybe I lean towards other characters. I haven't seen these guys show up. Yeah, they're lower tier, and I guess that's fine. There's more villains later. We'll talk about them when we get to it, but I like the setup that they did with these villains, because he goes to Wrecker, which everyone knows he's a low list villain, but he has a mystical crowbar now. It's a crowbar.
It's not as Guardian.
Yeah, so it's no longer what he's known for using. He now has just like a mystic backing to it, and he can destroy a lot more. They call him the Wrecker of Reality throughout this volume here, and he can kind of mess with the true nature of the world while using this thing, which was kind of cool. Strange, of course, he was actually defeated really in their first interaction between the two of them pretty significantly. But Strange was obviously able to get out of it, but they had this fight. He gets tied up. It looks like Wolverine in Days of Future Past, getting all that metal and concrete twisted around him and threw him, and he threw him in the ocean.
Hey, cool. Broke his leg too.
He did break his leg. That was pretty sick. Got sent to the ocean. So really, he thought he beat Doctor Strange, which no small feat to anyone, really. So that was sorry, Wrecker, that we ruined your scenario here. But right here, we get introduced to Doctor Strange's, what did he call it? Machina. What was it? What's his main house called? Sanctum Machina. That's what it was.
Yeah. Which I'm pretty sure like based off of Ex Machina. So it's like the Sanctum of God? No, the Sanctum of
Machinery, yeah.
Magic with forgery, so that would make sense.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. I liked it. It was kind of like, gave me, Batcave vibes. He called it his forge many times, where this is essentially where a lot of mystic things are kept, and you can forge your weaponry with runes for the mystic arts, which I'd never seen this before. Is it what? I guess we could have looked it up, but I think this is new to the character. Am I incorrect in stating that?
No, he's used it before. I don't remember if it was, it wasn't Fear Itself, but there was a time, it's like Fear Itself, where he had to mix magic with other heroes. So he was like imbuing weapons and stuff like that to give to like Wolverine and Tony and all of that to like.
Okay, yeah, so it's been used before, so that's fine. So I guess it's a cool little side thing for Doctor Strange. I mean, is reminiscent of the Forge in mythology, I would say, Hephaestus' Forge, or whatever the guy's name is in Norse mythology. But really the same idea. He goes there to make these weapons. And later on in the story, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's revealed that these mystic weapons that both Wrecker use and Thunderbolt, because there's a second fight between the two of them. And they're mystic in nature. So, Noah, you want to kind of take it from there? Tell me what the audience needs to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, Thunderbolt, the Wrecking Crew in general, their weapons originally were Asgardian. They were bits of Asgardian metal that had fell to the earth. And it was just a bunch of low-level crooks, a bunch of, 2-bit criminals who grabbed them and became the Wrecking Crew. And they used them and had to take out a bunch, like, New York people constantly had to fight them. Luke Cage fought them a couple of times in a store. So now, having non-Asgardian, because again, it's magic. Asgardian magic is something that is kind of actually low-tier magic when you think about sorcerers. You have Frigga, but she's about it. And Loki, he learned from her, but the Sorcerer Supreme has been able to withstand Loki's magic, Asgardian magic, so it was beyond his pay grade. It was almost like a chaos magic, the way that the crowbar was working, which is what I really wanted to see. I wanted to see more reality warping, which is what I thought the comic was going to kind of take place.
I thought
split.
There were a lot of things within this story that I felt like were cool concepts, but they weren't capitalized on enough. Like, these weapons could clearly do a lot of damage, but the way they were described, it should be able to like change reality and this, that, and the other thing. But for the most part, it kind of just caused extra damage. Like, the weapons got a soup up, but it didn't make them, crazy powerful.
Yeah, and then he does go to an alternate world. That was of his own volition, wasn't it? When he, it was what? When he goes
about
to
the tattoo world later. Yeah, we'll get.
He goes to the tattoo world, but he goes to another world. That's more. Was it in part 2? Like I said, I have it right here with me. But it's like the weird folly. I think it was like yellow almost.
Yeah.
But you can talk while I try and figure out where.
Yeah, that's fine. The thing that they really had going for him in this story that I found interesting. So, Dr. Druid, not a super well-known Marvel character, but he has served as both villain and hero. And at one point, he was he was an Avenger in some storylines. So he was dead prior to this volume, and now all of a sudden he's back, and that's kind of a crux of this whole storyline. Is he's there, but there's no real explanation as to why and what his true nature is going to be, and I think they really leaned into that here.
Okay, so I remember what part I was thinking about for part 2. I just had to scroll through it. It wasn't. He sent him into a different part. He tore apart his the multiverse. Like, there's a part where he
yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's when he defeats Thunderbolt and Wrecker. Because he gets attacked with the crowbar, which splits him into like a multiverse of himself. I liked that scene.
I like that scene, but I thought that was going to be like the ramping action to everything that was getting ready. Because again, it's a crowbar that screws up reality. The picture from the book shows 2 Doctor Stranges. So I thought that we were going to get like a weird, we have regular human Doctor Strange who doesn't use magic, who stays a surgeon, right? And then we have Sorcerer Supreme Doctor Strange, and it's them, I don't know, like the duality of man, like, because he couldn't do both, now he can. I was just expecting more of that than what we got. So I was a little underwhelmed by the story that was told. And once we get towards the end, I really got underwhelmed with like the true villain.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have preferred it, but the red herring that they had planted throughout the entire story was Dr. Druid, and the fact that he could be a villain or he could be a hero. I found it interesting that he also worked at the hospital with Strange. That was kind of a fun concept. But he himself, let me get his information pulled up in front of me. So Anthony Ludgate is his actual name, and he's an old. He kind of has telekinetic powers. He has telepathy. and a couple of other things. He's just really well trained, and he draws a lot of his power from nature. So think like mystic poison ivy would probably be the best way to describe him.
Yeah, or if you like D&D, he is a druid. Like that.
Yeah, I mean,
classic.
yeah, Druid. Yeah, it's from Irish mythology, I believe. So yeah,
I guess Man Thing or Man Thing or Swamp Thing. Which one gets their power from the green? That's more along the lines.
That's Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing gets his power from the green. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, it's a sorcerer Swamp Thing. But based on like this description that I have pulled up on here right now, which this was one of the art pages that I actually did appreciate, the work of green and the panel work.
Yes.
There was little splashes of like really cool visuals, but I think we kind of set ourselves up for failure doing the first book that we did. Like I said, Batman the Imposter. If you guys haven't checked out that video, go over to Radioactive Papercuts and check it out, because that book, I can't brag about it enough. I know we're doing this as a co-release with the Marvel stuff, but we're comic book nerds through and through. So go check it if you got the time.
Yeah, both sides matter.
Exactly. But back to this story. After this whole thing kind of develops, I think issue 3 comes about.
Yep.
We got through issue 1, we got through issue 2, which was, I've got the artwork for each of them coming through here. But issue 3, I liked this one a lot. I don't know if it was because I myself am pretty tatted up that I kind of related to some of this stuff. Like they use terminology that really only people that are into tattooing like heavy are people that would like really understand it. Like there at one point he says something like I'm not a scratcher, which to the most people don't know what that is, but a scratcher is someone who works from home, doesn't have his official license. It's someone that's kind of learning the trade. But that's neither here nor there.
No, I'm learning stuff. So before we get into 3, which is your favorite, again, I really enjoyed the like little 8 pages of Strange Academy that they had at the tail end of 2.
Oh yeah, you can talk about you know what, you have that. Just all yours. Talk about it as much as you want. That works for me.
So there's so many things about Strange Academy that I really enjoyed. One, it has some of my favorite characters, being Brother Voodoo and Nico Minoru from Runaways. Like that was dope. It's set in New Orleans, which
New Orleans is a fun one
of
to
the
have.
world. Huh?
Yeah. New Orleans is just a fun setting. Yeah. What in this, when they did note that it was in Strange Academy, I was like, I want to read that book. So maybe that'll be a future episode. But continue.
Exactly. There was it was giving me there was a Avengers Academy book that came out in like 2016, where it was pretty much Battle World but with teenagers.
Okay.
So Strange Academy was giving me like that same build up of that mixed with like that one Gotham book from New 52, where it's just that in school.
Yeah, they have a new one now. I actually just started reading over at DC called Titans Academy. Same idea.
Yeah,
actually. But
it had that same idea. Like I really love reading about teenage superheroes. They're the most entertaining. They have the most growth. They have the most to either lose or gain by whatever they choose. Like we know Doctor Strange, at the end of the day, it's going to be Doctor Strange. But watching a teenager superhero or villain grow up, we don't know. It's the drop of a hat.
I referenced exactly that in the last episode of Papercuts. Me and Rachel reviewed The Crimes of Grindelwald, and I noted that like this series doesn't like relate to the audience as much as the other ones do, because you don't have that young hero you're rooting for and watching them grow through the process. You're kind of just brought to an adult, and then they do their like adventure thing. Something about adolescence and being a teenager just makes stories so much more interesting.
It really does. I mean, that's why young adult. I mean, the biggest form of media in terms of like books are mangas and young adult novels and comics. But I mean, mangas. Anyone knows who, like, you might not have ever picked up a manga in your life, but you know who Goku is. You've heard the name Naruto. Like, watching the teenage, like, struggle for some reason to any age group almost, it's worth it. So, Strange Academy really had that for me. I thought all of the characters were kind of fun. Again, I got to see my man Brother Voodoo, which I enjoy. I wish he was still Sorcerer Supreme, but that sadly Steven's alive.
Yeah, he's an interesting character for sure. I'd like to see more of him. And yeah, the couple references to the Strange Academy, it feels like we could have had more there too, but I guess it is its own book. So whatever the case may be, I think maybe the problem with this book that we read is just this series doesn't have the legs that it seems like it should. Because in concept, I can totally understand. Like this could even kind of merge the gap between genders as well. Not to say that girls don't enjoy comic books, but they do. Like as an overall, a lot of females tend to be into Grey's Anatomy and like hospital dramas that are on TV. So I thought they were going to kind of go about that route within this comic book, where some of the hospital drama gets brought to comic books and kind of gets it introduced to a whole new audience. But we did not spend as much time in the hospital as I thought we were based on the title.
Yeah, I was expecting, like you said, like I wanted some real level not crime drama, hospital drama in this. I wanted for him to have to do a surgery on a child that, like, the building that exploded or something like that, or something to do with like being a surgeon in a superhero world. Like, yeah, he's the best surgeon, and he only gets called in when like no one else can get the job. Exactly. But like, what happens if there's an emergency and he's just there?
Yeah. Fortunately, we did get to see that once, not enough, but that's a perfect segue into issue 3. The premise of this one is a 19-year-old, a boy or man, whichever you prefer. He's very tatted up. His right nipples pierced, which was illustrated a couple times. I was like, hey man, I get what I get what they're trying to convey here. He had like long hair, got a beanie. Yeah, he had the punk style, and he went and got a tattoo from some stranger, which I was like, oh, that's a questionable move, but whatever, we'll move on from it. And what he did is he ended up getting a tattoo from this, I believe it was a demon. I don't think it was the main, wasn't the main villain in disguise? I think it might have been.
No, because the main villain, the main
Stigmata.
The 2-dimension. Yeah.
Yeah, he's stuck in the 2 dimensions. So he has like demons and lackeys in the 3D world. And this tattoo artist has some mystic coils from Doctor Strange's forge, which kind of relates it to the rest of them. And he gets a symbol tattooed on his neck about, I think it was a few days ago. And then every hour it aged the person who got the tattoo, because it was slowly sucking the life out of the 3-dimensional character and giving power to the 2nd dimension, which was where the villain was revealed to be Stigmata. I don't know if he's a new villain or what it is.
I've never heard of him, so
me either. So, but like again, like I said, because I'm super into tattooing, and like I even tried to do it myself for a while, which I sucked at. So we'll just leave that alone. But they have
I need pictures now.
They used tattoo style, like the slang. Like he talked about the different art styles. He was talking about like Yakuza as a type of style. Then he brought up Trash Polka, which I have a little bit of Trash Polka on my arm. Where's my camera? There it is. You'll see it someday. There we go.
So please, I mean, I would love to deviate because I know nothing about, and I'm sure some of our readers.
Yeah, if you guys are interested, I would love to. So they're essentially like the styles are based where they came from. Like the Yakuza is it's a Japanese art form, and if you've ever watched a movie with the Yakuza in it, it's kind of this intricate looking black, and then there's hard line breaks with across, like down the sternum or at joint levels, and it normally there's koi fish or food dogs incorporated into it, and it kind of just some cherry blossoms as well, and it kind of that's reflected in that society. And then there's obviously one for pretty much everyone, like there's different styles of tattooing, but Trash Polka is a pretty new one. I don't remember where it originates, but essentially the idea of Trash Polka is you take splashes of red and you have like designs in it, and then you get like crazy stuff. I'm showing my tattoo on the screen if you guys are curious. So you got like splats of red, and it's almost like a bit of randomness to it. So we're kind of deviating a little bit, but it's a fun little fun fact. If anyone needs to ask you what Trash Polka is, It's essentially a combination of like black and white design splashed with red. It's a cool concept. I like how it looks.
I think that people should go to the Instagram for Radioactive Papercuts and badger you until you show us pictures of your tattooing stuff.
Oh, I'll show you the tattooing stuff. I've never tattooed on anyone. I just was no good at drawing on the fake skin, but I will definitely post whatever photos. Maybe someday I'll get back into it. It's funny because I actually started the tattooing thing at the same time I started podcasting, and I got really into podcasting and kind of tapped out on the tattooing thing for a while.
You can only have one. So in 3, that is where we get the tattooing world was the world that I was thinking of, because it does have this really cool picture in the third act with that giant eye with the it looks like a thin sleeve. Like,
I thought I might have screenshot something like that. There we go. So this isn't the one you're talking about, but this is a view of this world. I loved the concept. I think it's just being a tattoo geek, because it was essentially like every tattoo that he had himself, like the teenager, and other people that have been tattooed by this demon guy, their tattoos bring across this world of just like super, I don't know, just abstract things, and it was super fun to adventure into because the concept of tattoo.
It's gonna sound weird, but it was giving me like comic book version of Chalk Zone. If you ever watched Chalk Zone.
Oh, Chalk Zone. Yeah, that's a fun pull. Yeah, you could definitely make that argument. Yeah, but just he went into this world using some magic thing because he's Doctor Strange. I mean, he has different words for everything. We're not the podcast is going to tell you every individual spell he said, because he said a lot of them within the storyline. But the lowdown is he goes to this world to try and save the teenager that came into the hospital. And he finds Stigmata, which is the name of the villain. And he has a bunch of people. They're like a version of them trapped within the tower, which the tower was also a tattoo, which was pretty cool. And I just showed the dragon on the screen where it had the dragon was guarding the castle. I'm like, this is perfect. I love the way they're telling the story. I mean, this was
there's the axe from the barbarian that he fought.
Yeah, and then he even had like at one point he had like different soldiers attacking him that looked like just different tattoo styles that you would get. So it was just really fun to adventure throughout this whole thing here, and there's a representation of each of the people that got tattooed within the tower, and Stigma's keeping them captive, and it kind of looks like, I don't know if you want to call it like the Matrix, where they're in the tubes. Similar, I don't know. There's probably a better comp there, but a representation of everyone that he's taken life from is trapped within this world, and Doctor Strange is forced to fight the Stigma and his creations to eventually free them. What were some of your favorite parts about this storyline here?
So as we're talking about it, we have to take into account that this is like so compared to like the Imposter, Batman the Imposter, or even like the last Roman, the Teenage Mutant Ninja. We have to take into account this is volume 1, so the stories aren't necessarily supposed to connect. And this one was like the part where I really started to feel like a disconnect from the other two.
Yeah, it's one of those things where any comic book story, if they're not on a direct storyline, but they need to fill in a lot of stuff, they have very loose connections to the overall story. Like this very much felt like a standalone comic. It could have, like, you could read this and not feel the need to read the rest of the series because it was kind of good in itself.
Yeah.
It lent itself a little bit to the overall storyline just because the coils that made up the tattoo machine were mystical. And I believe it was this storyline, or maybe it was the next issue, where it was actually revealed that all of these mystic weapons originated from Strange's Forge.
Yeah, I think at the end of this episode, like at the end of this issue, it's like him saying, like, I'm going to figure out where these are coming from. So I think it was like the catalyst to figuring out, like, all right, who is behind all of this? And then we get into, I don't know if this one's my favorite of the, like, 6. Because I consider them, like, 6, again, almost different stories that kind of come to a head at the end. I think I enjoyed this one the most because I thought Druid was an interesting character, and I really wanted there to be more of a is he or isn't he that I really wanted them to play with, but they kind of
Yeah, strange references is he or isn't he a lot, but his actual interactions with Druid are pretty limited until later in the volume. Issue number 4, I think it was the end of 3, the left out on a cliffhanger. The whole idea of having Druid in the storyline is because you had an out. You had someone that you thought might be the villain. The fact that he was trained to be Sorcerer Supreme and then eventually Stephen was chosen over him, he might have access to the Forge or know of the Forge, so he could be the guy that is breaking in and stealing all of the stuff. That was exactly what they were trying to do. But as we get revealed later in the story, he was the red herring.
yeah.
So
What
issue 4.
Go ahead. I was gonna say with issue 4, one thing that I was disappointed in is this was that perfect time to show Steven's limit, and they didn't do it because the whole point was like the beginning of like him fighting that beast, and being late for surgery. And
forgot to show this
Stigmata. Yes, Stigmata. I really wish that they would have done where he didn't make it to the surgery and that person died, and he slowly starts to realize he can't do both. Because, I mean, the fact that he came at the last thing, like, oh yeah, great, cool, whatever, he gets to stick it to whoever that guy is. Or even maybe the guy does do the procedure and he realizes, like, there are other good surgeons out there. I just thought the fact that he came in and swooped in and saved the day and then saved the day, and I'm like, all right, cool, he saved the day. I didn't connect with him. I thought that was just kind of too perfect.
Yeah, I agree with you. They could have raised the stakes a little bit, like had him actually kill someone. I didn't like how there was this loose romance with like his boss. That was weird too. I'm like, why is this even included? Like, what are we doing here?
I wanted her to be masked.
You want her to be the person? Okay, yeah, that would have made things more interesting, but it definitely was not the case. But yeah, essentially issue 4 is a lot of building Drew, making it look like Druid's going to be the villain, and then it's slowly revealed that someone else may have stolen the stuff from him. So we move forward, and I guess really, is this where you got some notes on issue 4 that you wanted to talk about before we move on to 5? Because 5 is really where things start to go down.
I guess the thing that I really enjoyed with 4 was we got to finally see Druid use his powers. I thought that was cool. The fact that he could channel the energy into anything organic. So he found his like flower, his greenhouse up on the top and made it explode. I thought that was cool. I thought it was weird the fact that like the villain, who we still don't know at the point, tricks Steven by planning a low-level demon as an explosive and they just bypass that. Like, I want to know how. Like, what? That seems so intricate. And they're just like, yep, it happened. Continue on with life. I'm like, no, please. I want a step-by-step process.
Yeah, that's a good point. It should. Yeah, they could have done like, how did she camouflage it to look like a human so well that it confused a couple of sorcerers to where they didn't realize until it was too late. But yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point. I think it was at the end of 4 we get the really big reveal of the bomb, and then Druid's able to disperse the energy to his greenhouse that's on the roof, and then it causes an explosion, and then Druid wipes the minds of all the visitors and the workers and the patients to where they don't remember the explosion. And it has a note that Steven's like, I don't have time to think about the logistics of how moral this is or not. I liked that.
Yeah.
We get introduced to 2 other little guys. I put a note here. They weren't that important, but Mr. Smile and Mr. Sulk. I think that was the beginning of either 4 or 5. Was it the beginning of 5? Yeah. So 2 more villains with 2 more weapons from the Forge. The way that their weapons were described to work together was fun, where it would create damage, and then the other guy would use a hammer to reconstruct to where he could trap someone in the rubble, was kind of the explanation that they gave. How did you feel about that?
I like the fact they truly look like Tim Burton creations.
They do look like Tim Burton
creations. Concept was amazing. their powers were, I mean, I enjoyed them, and I thought the battle at the beginning was kind of fun and intriguing.
Yeah,
But
I agree with you. A
yeah,
little bit of a highlight side battle. I like their little battle a little bit more than I like the Wrecking Crew, but that's just a personal preference. We get to go to the bazaar, though. That's where issue 5, a majority of it takes place, which is essentially a black market for the mystic arts. And I am intrigued. And since this is Strange Week and we're doing Strange Week because of the Multiverse of Madness, do we think, I mean, maybe not in this movie, but I would love to see the bazaar show up in the MCU.
yeah, I really like Bazaar. I was hoping that we would see more. And in terms of the movie, I don't, I don't know if we'll see the Bazaar because they have so much already jam packed in there.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be in this movie, but I would love for it to be in a sequel just because the whole concept of it is fun, where it's just like dark art stuff. It reminds me of Diagon Alley and Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's like Diagonal, and then it's like Madripoor. Is that the Marvel?
Madripoor, yeah, that's the mutant city. That same concept.
The crime town.
Yeah, something like that. But we get a small little glimpse of, I believe his name was like King Ragnar or something along those lines. Was that what his name was? Doesn't matter. All it is Strange and Druid essentially take over the look, like the physical look, and he called in a favor for Mr. Fantastic. So that was a fun shout out because mysticism doesn't work within the bazaar, and they can cloak themselves to be represented as something else, so they can get close to Madame Mask, which Madame Mask is the official villain, and I don't know if I was really that impressed.
No, I thought that it was such there's like so many other people, so many other names, and the fact that, and when we get to it in like this couple of chapters, her motivation is so dumb in my eyes.
Yeah, definitely very, very dumb. So the way she's introduced is she was recently defeated and she got like all this like extra power. So it took, was it Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and did she say Mr.
Doom?
Doctor Doom, that's right. It took all 3 of them to take her down in the last one. So that was it got me at least interested in her because I don't really know about her within the comic books. But then it was immediately kind of just undercut by the way the story was told.
Yeah, I mean the fact that, I mean, I know her from certain stories. She can command an army. She can be just as conniving, as thought provoking as like Red Skull in terms of like creating a plan or being like a black market dealer. But the fact that her entire motivation was kind of Tony. I thought that set to me, that set women back years.
Yep, Madame Mask, she's fine. I mean, the way that her whole motivation being that she's in love with Iron Man and she was trying to work with that, I just made no sense to me. I did like the scene where Doctor Strange was able to enter her mind a little bit. That's in the next issue though, but that there was highlights and lowlights, but
these next couple of issues kind of all run together because they do kind of finish off the story. They're all in this area.
Yeah, 5 to 6 is the most continuity between any of the issues. It's just literally picking up right where the other one left off. So we can kind of talk about it in general terms more than individually. So essentially, Madame Mask did not fall for Strange's ruse hardly at all. I mean, clearly she was fooled by Druid, thinking that he was Strange in the initial introduction, but then Doctor Strange was able to get to, a vantage point to really prepare his plan.
Yeah.
And Madame Mask immediately kind of is like, okay, I know exactly what's going on here. So she not only sicks the entire city onto Doctor Strange, but she also the environment on this whole thing, that was a pretty fun concept. we forgot to touch on that. The Bazaar, their environment adapts to the people that are there, depending on where they're from. So people from a certain planet where they need to inhale like iron oxide or something like that, the environment will provide that, but it won't give that to like Doctor Strange. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the Bazaar looks really cool, and I would have like enjoyed to kind of see more where the people inside of it interact. And again, Druid's powers and the fact that he was kind of the person who saved the day, I enjoyed. That was nice. It wasn't just Steven being Steven.
Yeah. Really, just the last few notes here. This whole event happens. Doctor Strange has to essentially do like a mystic lobotomy type of thing and make her think of 4 different images, which was weird to like unlock.
Yeah, the pictures of Tony.
They were just weird pictures of Tony. Yeah. I did like the scene where he entered her mind though, where it was just this creepy amalgamation of like Iron Man armor in this like home that she wished she lived there with Tony. It was very odd but super fun. And the comment that he's like, okay, so this is what love is considered to a psychotic woman.
Yeah, and then him try, and then he created the mask. He was like, "Hey, this will make you sane," and she was just like, "No," and he yeets herself.
Yeah, that's fair. Madam Mask, I would be okay with her showing up in the MCU though, if they do her right. If they don't, I want them to handle it differently than they did within this story. But if we truly do have a woman that it takes all 3 of those guys to take her down, I want to see it. That's how I feel.
Yeah. I think the closest so far we've gotten to someone like that on that level was what am I blinking on? Hela. But we do need someone kind of more in the Earth realm to do something like that.
Yeah, Madam Mask is a little bit reminiscent of what they're doing with Lady Hydra within the MCU. So maybe, I mean, she'll take some amalgamation stuff from her. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But maybe this story, what happens? Obviously, Doctor Strange is victorious. He gets all of his mystic weapons that were made in his forge to disappear, and the hero saved the day. And Madam Mask, instead of getting herself turned in, decides to jump off a cliff and be hunted for the rest of her life. Okay, conclusion? Is that how you feel about it?
I mean, it was a conclusion that I think the fact that it concluded, and again, back to the volume 1, but they're all not supposed to be like interconnected. This wasn't like a standalone story. Yeah, it is in a way a volume 1 ends. We still have some questions that could possibly be answered in the coming futures, but nothing where it's just completely done.
Yep. So, fine storyline. I hope you guys enjoyed that review of the comic book. Noah, because of Strange Week, let's talk about the MCU and the impact of this upcoming movie outside of this comic book. And I just want to get some of your feelings on it. Do we think they can incorporate anything from this storyline into the MCU to the benefit of the character?
I think the only thing we could possibly see is that there's a variation where Strange is still a surgeon. He made a deal and his hands work perfectly, but he gave up magic. I feel like that may be a version of Steven that we see where he picked that path compared to the path that he's on right now. Yeah. Other than that, I don't. Maybe I can't remember the names of Shumagorath is the like in-betweeners, the monsters that live in the realm. I would love to see some of the images that they used for some of the like illnesses to be concept art for maybe some of the monsters we see, because I really enjoyed some of those monsters. They look gnarly. But I honestly don't know if there's going to be anything. Maybe we'll get a hint of Druid as a character. Maybe he becomes a character in Doctor Strange 3 with brother. Druid.
I could see maybe a mention of the Forge too, if this is really going to be an important thing to the character. But yeah, we picked this Doctor Strange book kind of at random, and I think we came up at a little bit of a loss. I'm not saying this is the worst comic book ever, but it definitely felt like just run of the mill, nothing all that special about it. So it's a bummer,
That
but we
being
read it.
said, I think
Yeah.
for our next book club, we need to, at least for book club in which we really like dive deep, need to find contained stories.
Yeah, I agree. The one-offs where like we did the DC Black Label stories, those are a lot more because there's a conclusion built within it. If you do a volume one of a series, you're kind of left to what they're going to do in future issues. So that's kind of how these things go, and that's okay. We hope you guys enjoyed this first combination co-release between the Radioactive Papercuts and Marvel Stuff podcast. We hope you guys really enjoyed. We're going to do these every month over on Radioactive Papercuts. Noah's always there, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of Strange Week. If you have any questions or you didn't like this or you liked it, make sure to shoot us a message, rate us 5 stars. We're growing all the time. We're so pumped for Strange Week. We love you. Noah, any final thoughts?
The Crimson Bands of Sidorak.
I love it. Had nothing to do with anything, but it's perfect. Enjoy Strange. We'll give you our spoiler-free review on Thursday, full review on Friday, a couple more fun things on Mondays and Wednesdays. We love you. Have a good one.